Welcome back to the channel. So today we will be solving this faang SQL interview problem. It is a very interesting and the important problem at the same time. So if you see here in the input, we have given this user data, the basically the credit balance, username, and the user ID, and we have here the transaction detail, right? So the if we see here, the first column transaction ID, second column paid by. So basically, user one has paid to user three 400 on this day, right? Similarly, if we read this one, so the transaction ID three, the user two, that is Jonathan, has paid to one, that is Mustafa, 200, right, on this day. So this is how we can read this input. The output is here we have the user ID, that is this column, and the username, this column, the credit. So basically, this is the current state, right? Or we can, okay, let it be current state. And then the credit limit breached. So basically, what this column says is if we have the current state, like after the transaction, if this is the negative, then we say that that particular customer has breached the limit score, right? So since this is the in the negative, so we need to print yes for the negative credit score, and if it is positive, then we need to print no. So this is what we need to calculate, right? So let's understand this input and the output, basically how this output is getting generated from the input, then we'll see how we can approach this problem. Okay, so if you see here, for this user ID 1, that is Mustafa, let's see how we have the credit as -100, and once we have this credit column, then we can easily get this breached uh, column, right, using the case when statement. So this is, I think, simple. Wherever we have the negative credit, then we should give one, sorry, yes, and otherwise no. Okay, so let's start for this one. So for the user one, we have initially he has 100 rupees, right? And then user one, we can see that he has paid 400 to user three. If he is paying, then it is negative 400, right? Negative 400. And again, if you see here, like user two has paid, user two, that is Jonathan, has paid 200 rupees to Mustafa, that is plus 200, right? Plus 200. So if we do the summation, so altogether we have only these two transactions, and this is the default value, right? Or the balance. So if we do this, so we have 300 positive minus 400 negative. So this is nothing but minus 100, right? Since this is the negative, then we should have the breached column as yes, right? I think this is clear. This is simple to understand, right? Now, let's understand for the second um, why I don't know why this eraser doesn't work sometime. Okay, let me remove this also. Okay, so now let's understand for other user also. Let's say for Jonathan, right? He is having 500 as credit after the transaction. So for Jonathan, he started with 200 plus 200, and then he got 500, right? Paid to is nothing but positive value, paid by is a negative value, right? Because the transaction from here, we can say that paid by, that is here the value is debiting, right? Debit is there, and here there is a credit basically, right? So here we can see that he is getting 500. So we have plus 500, and then again he is paying 200, right? He is paying 200. So it is debit. So altogether it is like if we sum up, it is 500. So we have 500 over here. Similarly, you can do the dry run for the this user also. But now we will see how we have the for Louis we have 800, right? So if we see here for Louis, we have 800 balance, and here in the transaction table we don't have any transaction, right? No transaction, no transaction, right? So if we don't have any transaction, that means we should return that record as it is. So that's why we have 800 as it is over here, right? 800 as it is. So to approach this problem, what we can do, we can see here, like the formula or the observation we can get from here. So wherever it is paid by, that means there is the amount should be negative, right? Because this is the debit case. Similarly, wherever it is a paid to, that means the value is getting credited or money is getting credited. So this should be positive value, right? The amount column should be positive, and here this should be negative, right? So these two are done. Okay. So at the end, if we see here, we need to find the final credit score, right? So the formula, formula, we can say that the initial score plus paid by, since it is a debit case, so from the account, so we can say that minus of paid by amount, or we can say that instead of paid by, this should be amount, right? And this is coming from paid by, right? And similarly, we can say that plus positive value of amount. So this is paid to, right? Because whenever if a account is getting credited, so that value is positive, and wherever it is like going debit case, it is a negative, right? So I think this is the formula. To approach this problem, I will tell you the steps, and you can pause the video and code it up, right? So we can use the union, then we can get the once we do the union, then we can get the total transaction value. After the all the transaction, we can get the sum value, right? So this is the second step. Third step is joining the table. Like once, why joining? Because if we join, then we will get these information, right? Username, and wherever we don't have any um, transaction, so those record also we need, right? So that's why we need a union, and that too we need left join. If we consider the this user table in the on the left side, this is done. And then fourth is we can use the case when statement to get our required output. So these are the four steps in which we can solve this problem. So if you understood, you can pause the video and code your solution and post in the comment section. I will proceed with my solution. Okay, so let me begin. So this is the input and the output. So this is basically the two tables, right? So initially we will play with this transactions table. So let me zoom a little. So we will write select. We need paid by, right? Okay, paid by. We can say that as a user ID, comma amount. Let me select these two columns, and then we'll explain it. Let me run this. We have these two things. Since user is paying, so this value should be negative, right? So how we can do this? Using -1, and we can say that amount, right? Let me run this. I think this is simple to understand, right? At the end, we need a balance, right? So we have the negative in everywhere. Similarly, what we can do, we can union with what? Paid to, right? Sometime a user is paying, so it is negative. When the value will get credited in his account, then it will be a positive value. So in that case, what we should do, we can write paid to, and this value should be positive. Here, this we can remove, right? Let me run this. Now, if you see this time, the value is getting credited. That's why we have a positive value over here. Now we have these two, we can create a CTE, right? How you can understand that where you need a union and where not. So wherever you see there is a common, wherever you see a particular column is performing two different thing, and on a single column, then you can find the like hint that there you can use the union. So basically you can see here, so on this amount column, the same user like can be a paid by or paid to, right? Same user, you can see here one is paid by and here it is one is paid to. So can you like, are you getting a hint of union, right? We can union these two column and the this column basis like amount column. So this is how like we identify the problem and the pattern in it, right? So let me print now. So let's start from cd and let me add this. Okay, now we have this data, basically total 6 record. So once we have this, then what we can do, we can just find the summation via this transaction table. Then let's see what we can do after that. So we can just do group by on user ID, and here we can write user ID comma sum of amount as after all transaction. Okay, let me run this. Okay, so after the transaction, we have the scores like this. But here, one thing is missing, that is, we don't have the initial score summed up, right? If you see the formula, we have here the initial part also. We have already done these two, okay? We need to now sum this column, okay? That we will see. But before that, if you see here, we got in the output only 3 records, right? One, two, three, but we are missing with the fourth one, right? So for that one, we will have to do the left join, right? To get the data of that also. So we can put this in the cd. So we can write cd1 as, and let me do this. So we can write select from cd. Okay, instead of cd, let me use that table as, okay, user. So we can write user as t1, left join cd1 as, okay, cd1 as t2 on t1 dot user. So from t1 we have user ID column, right? So we can paste over here. User ID is equal to t2 dot user ID, right? So on this column we can do this, and let me print everything from both the columns. So t1 dot star, t2 dot star. We could have written star also. That's fine. Okay, so we have everything, but you can see here, since we don't have record in the right table for this record, that's why we have null over here. Okay, so in the output, what all things which we need accordingly we will write. So in the output, we need user ID, username, credit, and this column. Okay, so this column will be generated via this column. So let's grab these things. So we can write over here. So from T1 we can get user ID, and then from T1 we can get username, and we can get this. So basically this credit plus this all transactions should be summed up, right? Based on our formula. So let's do that. Okay, where is that? Okay, so basically this credit plus after all transaction. So these two columns should be summed up. We can write this as credit, right? Okay, let me run this. Okay, now you can see we have the summation. But if you see here, we are getting null over here. Why null? Let me explain you. So let me first remove this and print everything. Then I will explain you why we are getting null over here. So if you see here, we are doing the summation of credit column and the all transaction column. So when this two is getting summed up, so here we are getting -100, here we are getting 500, here we are getting 9900, and here we are getting null. Why? Because 800 is getting summed up with the all null, so that's why we are getting null in the output, right? So to avoid this such cases, what we can do, we can put, now we know that all transaction column can have the null value, so we can put or wrap this between folios, right? So we can write if this is null, then consider 0, right? This is done, and now, and we can put these things in the bracket. Okay, so now let me run this. Okay, now you can see we have 800 properly, right? And I think we are getting correct answer. Let's cross verify. Minus 100, 500, 9900, and 800. So if you see here, minus 100, 500, oh sorry, minus 100, 500, 9900, 800. Okay, awesome. We have got the required output. Now we only need the last column. So that's quite easy, right? So we just need to write the group case when statement. So we can write this as CT2 and put here this last statement. So select from CT2. We need to we need everything, and then case when. So we can write case when this credit is greater than 0, then okay, let's write this case. So wherever it is less than 0, then we need yes, yes, this guy has breached the credits limit, and else no, right? And as the column name should be, let me copy from here, right? Okay, this, right? Let me run this. Okay, I made some mistake. Okay, I've closed to. Okay, so yes, this is the final output. Okay, so this problem I have taken from the coding ninjas. What we can do, we can paste this solution over here and check if this is working or not, right? So let me paste this and try submitting this one. Okay, this got accepted. And if you can see here, this is the problem bank account summary, and this has been asked in almost all the FANG companies, right? So this is very important problem. You can see like most of the like a lot of company have asked this problem. So yes, if you like this content, please do like, subscribe, and share the channel. And if you're new to this channel, you can check out our other playlist also. We have a lot of interview related content, right, on PySpark, DSA, Pandas, Python. So you can check out that. So I will provide the create statement also in the description section. You can try it by yourself also, right? So let's meet in the next problem. Until then, bye.